Now I remember the Trailblazer. I remember you had that Toronado.
Yeah, so that was the first project.
Yeah.
I cashed out this, or I guess borrowed against the 401k at Saturn to get this car. Because I always liked, okay, so a Toronado, I like unique, cool cars.
That's definitely a unique car.
That's out of the norm. And it just fit the bill. Big block Oldsmobile.
That was what, the 428?
425.
425.
425. But it had...
I don't know Oldsmobile, so...
It had a different compression than your regular, like, 88, like Olds 88 or 98
right.
425. And it was front-wheel drive. It was the first mass-produced front-wheel drive car. And basically... GM over-engineered it. They literally put that transaxle in the GMC motorhomes in the 70s.
Right, and that was basically, that was what, a TH400?
Yeah, basically it was a TH400. So you had a torque converter. So the V8 was mounted longitudinally, just like a normal V8 rear-wheel drive. You had a bell housing, torque converter. Then you basically had a chain and sprocket to TH400 planetaries and a front diff. Like literally it looked like just the front pumpkin to like the most massive CV axles you've ever seen in your life. And I thought it was cool. It's a cool car. You never see them. It's such an underappreciated car. And basically I had gotten this car. I had found it. A guy took it in as payment. He knew nothing about cars, but somebody owed him money and had this car. And so it was like in the middle of restoring. And
so far, it was primered. It had most of the interior. It ran.
It didn't run good, but it ran. And I did some things. And again, this was, first starting out, like 07.
And those are the worst cars. Your first project car.
Well, okay, so the demise,
you don't know enough.
The demise of that car, unfortunately, was the economy. The economy crashed. Yep. I couldn't afford squat. I couldn't afford to do anything to this Oldsmobile. I felt really bad for it. I ended up trading it I left Saturn and went to do towing. And I ended up basically just like straight up even trade for like a 2000 Pontiac Bonneville. And I made out on that deal. That Bonneville was a great car.
You had that thing for years.
That Bonneville was amazing. That it had like 270,000 miles on it. Ice cold AC.
You also have to understand this was like
was that beige one?
No, this was a dark blue and rust.
I remember the beige one you had before this current car. I can't remember what it was.
A beige one. I had
or brown. I cannot remember.
Oh, well there was so for a very brief short time I had the white Park Avenue.
Okay, that's
the Park Avenue.
That one.
That's what I was thinking.
That was a sexy car. That was such a pimp car. And I fixed the shocks on it. That thing I sold it to another mechanic that he was just going to give it to his daughter for their first car or son. And I still see that car because he lives in the area, and I see him from time to time still driving that thing. That thing was that car.
Well, those 3800s last forever.
Yeah, it was the dealership owner's wife's car. So the guy who owned the place I work for now has been bought out like 4 times over its course of like 60 years of existence. This building, it started out as a straight Pontiac dealership, and then it became I think just a BOP dealership, and then it basically evolved to the end of the second owner, which was the longest. Like most people know in the area, that's what this dealership was. And it was his wife's car. And then the transmission tech that we have, and he's been there for, we joke and say that he's been there since they poured the concrete, but he's actually retiring next month. But he bought the car and he drove that for a while, and then he sold it to another tech, the guy I bought it from, and he was using it as his winter car. Didn't really care, but was a Ford guy and had a bunch of Mustangs and actually races Mustangs, and he had bought himself a pickup truck, so he didn't need a winter beater anymore, and so I bought it, because I just like big 3800 Buicks, and I think I put air shocks on it, and I think I fixed one of the
I think that's why I remember
subframe.
it was the air shocks, because I rode in it before the air shocks.
Yeah.
And you're like, we might die.
Yeah, they were pretty, they were done. But, I mean, it's just a thing that wears out over time. And then we put one of the subframe bushings. So that particular body style, before they updated it to the second generation, the subframe bushings would just kind of rot. And I fixed one of them, or a couple of them. Then I just flipped it to the other guy, the other tech, and he had left. He's no longer working for us, but I still see it driving down to time. That was an okay car. I like that car. And then, after the olds, it was the Camaro, which I had the Camaro while having the olds.
Yeah.
The Camaro was the daily until, like, the insurance rates. Like, I hit the guardrail one time and needed some work done. And that's a whole nother story we can get into later.
That was up in Sunbury.
That was in Galena. That was
That
was coming into
There's
Galena.
Like a dusting of snow on the ground.
Yes.
And the Camaro just decided to go, whoop.
Yep, right in a guardrail. I was like, okay, well, that's the way that is. So my insurance, which was already ridiculous, a 20-year-old kid with a Camaro.
Now that was
the double.
That was what, 00?
That was a 02.
02?
Last year.
And that was just the regular LS1 car. That wasn't an SS or anything.
No, it was just a Z28.
But
just
you had
silver.
You had like SLP intake and exhaust.
Yeah, I had
on
some bolt-on mods. It was okay. It was a fun car. I love that car. Nobody was driving that car ever.